How fast could you run if you fixed your running form? The simple answer is that you would run faster for longer with less effort and fewer injuries. So in this video, I'll show you how to tell if your running form is incorrect, the most common running form mistakes, and exactly how to fix your own running form. I'm also going to show you why most people who talk about running form miss a critical step which can make all the difference.
Now, I'm Niklas, a former professional athlete, physiotherapist, and elite performance specialist. So, how quickly can you expect to see improvements in your running form? If you follow the steps that I'm about to show you, you can see improvements immediately. But you might find it a bit hard at first. That's because your body is optimized to running the way you are right now, which for me at first at least was more like Frankenstein's monster than Usain Bolt. So when you fix your running form, you're going to go through a short period of adjustment before it becomes natural and easy. But if you improve your running form, you're going to run faster with less effort, with less injuries, and you're going to set new personal bests. So let me show you a simple yet extremely powerful way to find out if your running form is less than optimal to begin with. But before we can talk about correcting our running form, we need to define what a good running form even is to begin with. And here is my take on it. A good running form minimizes the resistance that you need to overcome and maximizes the force that propels you forward. Any energy that is spent on not making you go forward in the direction you want is wasted energy. And I like to look at it from a straight biomechanical view and not from a galaxy far, far away. All right, with that set in stone, let me show you exactly how to assess yourself and improve every single aspect of your running form. All right, so this is a video of me how I ran back in the day. Now, it's filmed recently, but you know, educational purposes. So whenever I look at running forms, I like to start from the feet and then work my way up. To make things easy for you, let me just quickly go over 4 things that I usually see when I'm correcting running form like this from the side. The first thing is dorsiflexion in the ankle. It's great for sprinters, not for endurance athletes. If you look at the feet only, then you can see right here on the right that whenever I hit the ground, which is right about there, and then if we look on the left, when I hit the ground around here. Now, if we look at my feet, they are dorsal flexed on the right, which means that they are pointing upwards, and that creates a force against me there. On the other hand, when we look at the left, you can see that the force against me is actually not there from the feet. Some people say that you need to do a dorsal flexion. I don't agree unless you are a sprinter. There's some different biomechanics there. But if you do long distance running, then most people would just get shin splints if they start to do the dorsal flex. So I would just relax your feet, relax the lower part of your leg until right before you hit the ground. If you look at the left side here, I try to relax my feet, and then just as they hit the ground, I start to flex and use my muscles. And that's because when you are running a long distance, you want to reserve as much energy as possible. And then again, if you overstride like I do on the right side here, then you are creating some force that you have to overcome. So that's the first thing. So let me quickly go over the heel strike, midfoot versus forefoot. I don't really care if you land right underneath your body, then you can be a heel foot striker, you can be a midfoot striker, you can be a forefoot striker. It won't matter that much because the force created against you will not be that much because you are landing right underneath that center of gravity. One thing I will say though is that most people that I've ever coached and I've seen who are forefoot runners, they tend to have a lot of Achilles issue because it's a lot of force that their Achilles tendon has to overcome at each step. So in my opinion, the best way to land is midfoot, but people are built different, so sometimes it can be better to do something else. Most elite runners are midfoot runners. And if you want to geek out more about foot mechanics, I made a whole other video where I show you exactly how the feet are supposed to land, and I even had a gait analysis, so you can check that out if you want. The next thing is big toe dorsiflexion. This is why most people have a hole in the top of their shoe. It's because they do the dorsiflexion of the feet or the toes, and it has no purpose other than just spending energy and ruining your shoes. So if that's your issue, you need to do some training for your feet and it could be just like neuromuscular control so that you can lift your feet or your toes independently of each other. The next thing is your feet landing in front of your body. They should land just underneath you or close to. And a great thing to think about when you're trying to learn this is to think in your head that they should land behind you. Trust me, they won't, but if you just think, okay, I need to land behind my mid-center of gravity, then that will help you get closer to that midline. Next common mistake I see is no knee drive. And here's where most people go wrong, because they think that like elite athletes, they need to kick themselves in the butt. But this is an illusion. You see, when athletes run really, really fast, they knee drive, and because they relax in the lower leg, then it works sort of like a whip. So it's not that they're trying to kick themselves in the butt, it's because they have such a high knee drive and it works like a whip. The next thing I see is no extension at the hip. Keep your body upright and extend your hip as far away back as you can so that you propel yourself forward. Which brings me to the one thing that most coaches ignore when they're analyzing running form. And I don't know why, because it could make all the difference. Let me just say this. Anyone who say they can fix your running form or correct your running form only looking at you from the side, they don't know what they're doing. And let me show you why. Now, this is a look at me from behind running. And as you can see, I can see a lot of things that I could not see when I looked from the side. So the first thing, if we look at the feet, we can see that whenever I hit the ground, I have sort of a supinated foot. Now, it's okay to have your feet are designed to have sort of a bit of a supination and then go into a bit of a pronation when you go over your big toe. But that's the first thing. The next thing is that I can see my knees, and I can see that they are sort of going up against each other. If you can see, they are very, very close to each other. And that's because I have a bit of a tendency to inward rotate at my hip. This is not good. I need to work on this. I need to work on my outward rotation and be more stable. The next thing is that you can see right at my hip, if you look at the degrees here, you can see that when I land, it's not a 90-degree angle. It's not even a 90-degree angle at any point in time. In fact, I tend to have a much higher right hip than a left hip. And I want this to be as aligned as possible. So I need to work on this. And these things, you can't see them when you're looking at your view from the side. So it's very important that whenever you fix your running form, you have a side view and you have a frontal view like this one or from the front, and then also have one of your feet so you can see exactly what's happening there. Again, to make things easy for you, let me just quickly go over the things that I usually see and that we usually need to correct. So the first mistake I often see is the arms, and I often see them going over the midline, and we don't want that because that's creating force in a direction we don't want. So that's going to create force that way and that way. We don't want that. So we want it to be on either right side or left side, not crossing the midline. Most people say, then where should I have them? And I just say, wherever it feels natural. So bend your elbow at 90 degrees or above, and then just have it where it feels natural. So it depends on how your scapula or how your shoulder is built, but don't think that you have to have them out like here or in here. Just have it where it feels natural. So the next mistake I usually see is the Trendelenburg sign, and that means that when you land on your feet, your hip will sort of go out to that side or to that side, and that means that you need to work on the strength of your hip, because of course that is also creating force in a direction that is not helping us propel forward. And then the last thing I usually see here is feet that are crossing the center line. So if we look at me here, we are right around the center line here. So often I see people actually crossing that midline, and that creates a lot of force again, and especially on the hip. And if you tend to have issues on the outside of your hip or the outside of your knee, it could be because of this. So it means that you need to work on hip abduction and the strength here. Now I know that this can seem like a lot, and where do you even begin? So let me show you a powerful hack when it comes to running form. Using this hack has helped more runners than I can count, and it's just one of those things where if you do it right, most of the other things, they correct themselves. Are you ready for it? Try to film yourself and then increase your steps by 10% and then film yourself again. I promise you, most of the time you'll find that most of the things that we just discussed, they have just magically disappeared because you increased your cadence. And that's incredible from just focusing on one thing. But fixing your running form is only half of the equation. Now you need to learn how to train correctly to run faster with less effort. And you can learn exactly how to do that in this video right